Welcome, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic Sunday, whether it is morning, noon, evening, night. I am Jen from Sundae Baubles, and I am thrilled to be here with you for our Sunday brunch. I see so many of you are incredibly punctual. Hello and welcome. Good morning, or actually not at all morning for Deborah or Hannah or Ray. Hello, Nisha. Welcome to your first live. Catherine, Kathleen. I see Jackie, Coel, Evelyn as well, Lily, so many folks already here. Hello, Daria. I hope you're doing great. If you are new to the channel, we do bi-weekly live videos that are Sunday brunches focused on research, identification, and education. And the goal really is to share information. We are all on this journey together as we learn more and more about jewelry, the components, the materials that go into it. And today is a special all about turquoise. I'm really excited about this topic. Turquoise is such a beautiful color, and the word is used in so many cultures for the stone as well as the color, and it has so much meaning. We are going to dive right in very soon. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Donna, Angela, Virginia, Monica, Barbara, Sue. Good morning, Gina. So many folks here. It is lovely to see you all. Now, before we get into the turquoise, a couple of little housekeeping items. Please type #win, all caps, for a chance to win a Sundae Baubles mug. And this is a gift that I do live every week. I ship it for free to your house, no matter where you are in the world, as long as the post can deliver. Large 20-ounce mug, it is the only way to get one of them, completely free. All you have to do is type #win. We are also going to be giving away some more Extra Scoop memberships today. And if you are not familiar with the Extra Scoop Club, it is sort of an extra access membership program where we do additional programs that include live Zoom meetups, as well as an antique roadshow style show and tell where you send me pictures and I do some research on your pieces. So if you are interested in learning more, there is a join button for the One Scoop that is available on YouTube. And then there's also the Patreon if you want a little bit more support as well, where 2 scoops gets you some identification support for 2 pieces per month, and 3 scoops gets you the support and also an optional call. Now, we are going to jump right in after I tell you about 2 things that are coming up for Extra Scoop. Virtual meetup number 2 is happening next weekend. So if you are interested in joining, this is Zoom, it's interactive. You can have your video on or off, and it's always a lot of fun. And our next Antiques Roadshow style event is March 17th. So you will have a chance just by being here today to also win a membership, and that'll give you access to see what goes on in the club as well. Now, let's jump into turquoise. It is such an amazing topic. I've got some on, or do I? We're going to do one of our famous games at the end where we determine, is it turquoise or is it something else? After we teach you a few things, of course. And we're going to jump right in. So turquoise, it has been used for thousands and thousands of years, and it is said that over 7,000 years ago, there's evidence of the first mines in Persia. But what is it really? Well, it is a hydrous phosphate of copper and aluminum, and we've got the full details of its makeup right here. But the most important thing to know is that it is a little bit of a soft material. So on the Mohs scale of hardness, it falls at a 5 to 6. Now, this means that it is a porous material. It can absorb water, oils, other materials, and is a little bit prone to breaking as well. It's said that even good lapidaries who are cutting stones sometimes break up to like 15% of the stones that they're trying to facet when they're doing it by hand, because it can be very, very brittle. Now, in terms of metaphysical properties, it does offer physical protection, cleansing of the mind, body, and spirit, as well as uplifting and calming energy. Persia is extremely well known for turquoise. There are beautiful deposits and some of the most blue without matrix. And that is what we have come to know now as Persian turquoise. And it is so important that it is actually sometimes found even in the burial chambers when they're dug up. So there's this fun little chart that you can see here. This is a burial chamber that was uncovered, and there was a turquoise labret as well as turquoise beads that were wrapped in with the mummy. Now, turquoise, both the color as well as the stone, is said to protect from the evil eye. So often you'll see evil eye amulets used or just turquoise stones themselves in Middle Eastern jewelry, which is absolutely beautiful. In Iran, we have this amulet ring from the 11th or 12th century, and we will see that there's very similar designs in the medieval times in Europe and Eastern Europe as well. And because it was meant to be so protective, we do see in daggers and other weaponry that warriors would carry all sorts of embedded pieces of turquoise. This is an example from the about 1700s, they say about 1740 or so, where we've got a set of daggers and sheaths as well. In Egypt, even King Tut's burial mask had turquoise embedded into it, as well as some turquoise faience, which is not actually turquoise stone. And we will absolutely talk about that. And finally, we must talk about North America, because there are tremendous deposits of turquoise in North America. And the jewelry, especially the Native American jewelry, is actually quite incredible. But as you're going to see, there are all sorts of different colors in the jewelry. And you may be asking yourself, why? Why do we see so many colors? I thought turquoise was turquoise. Well, it all depends what else is in it, whether it is high in iron or copper content. And especially in America, we have tons and tons of deposits. Now, the jewelry, or turquoise that was made into jewelry, was very important for Native Americans, still is today, and it's very worn. And there is a belief by both the Lakota Sioux and the Navajo indigenous nations that turquoise attracted water, and it was used in rituals to call for rain. So really a beautiful usage. When we think about the varieties, we should think about the mines. So here is a little snapshot of US deposits of turquoise. And as you can see, they vary from greens to blues, that sky or robin's egg, the Sleeping Beauty kind that Gina just referred to, which is also essentially the same color as what is known as Persian. And sometimes it's used interchangeably. We've also seen all sorts of wonderful matrices as well in turquoise. So we're going to talk about all of these details. There are quality factors, just like with any other stone, and color, matrix, and treatments all come into play. So we're going to jump right into this. But first, I want you to tell me, are you a turquoise fan? Do you have any in your collection? And if you do, what do you favor? Do you like the turquoise that is the pure blue Persian Sleeping Beauty kind? Do you gravitate towards the Royston that may have some browns and reds? Do you like a strong matrix, the spider webby version, maybe the Bisbee? And maybe you've never heard any of these words before, and that's okay, because we are going to dive right in. So the first thing to know about the color is that blue is viewed as being the most valuable. And it really is that true sky, robin's egg, Persian, or Sleeping Beauty blue that is the most sought after. And it's the copper content in these stones that gives it that wonderful blue color. Green is second most desirable and right up there, and it generally has a strong iron content. And then, of course, we have varieties with matrices, and of course, of stones can have different deposits within them, which can create all sorts of striations and matrices as well. So it's absolutely fascinating to see all of the different colors. Now, when I say that on a scale of less valuable to more valuable, the blue, that is the pure blue with no matrix, is considered the most valuable. In part, it's because it's the most scarce. It is hard to find a large piece with no matrix at all. because this is a fairly soft stone. They are all very, very special. And the most important thing to know is what you like, because it's personal preference that matters more than anything else. If you see a piece and it speaks to you, then that's the piece for you. Welcome, April. Thank you so much, Gina. I really, really appreciate that. Hello, Linda, Virginia, everyone else. It is wonderful to see you. Now, I want to share a couple of charts that give you some information on the different mines and what types of turquoise they are most famous for. And you are welcome to screenshot this, but I will be putting some links into this video after it's published as well, so that you have access to all of this information. There are some wonderful sources online. Here is a diagram that's got the color and matrices. They refer to this Persian or Sleeping Beauty blue as aquamarine blue. And the description is really a tranquil and translucent blue, but keep in mind, the blue itself is translucent, the material not necessarily. Sleeping Beauty mine in Arizona and also the Nishapur mine in Iran are these two locations where it's found. So this is really that very, very precious Persian or Sleeping Beauty turquoise. Then we've got some of the olive green, the Kingman mine in Arizona, and we also have some mines in China as well that have this wonderful variety. You can find chocolate brown from Royston in Manasseh. There is a red version, and really it's in the matrix from Red Mountain. And again, we've got the Demel mine as well. There's spiderweb matrix from Querco Lake, Turquoise mine, and we also have the matrix-free turquoise, and this is from different mines in Nevada. We've got Arizona, and finally pyrite matrix, which can be found too. So there is all sorts of different varieties that can be found, and this is only a very short list. But why I wanted to share this with you is because before we can talk about quality, we do have to talk a bit about color, because each variety is going to have its own sort of scale in terms of quality as well. And I see a fun fact from Gina saying that Sleeping Beauty Goddess is named because of the mountain it comes from. Looks like a Sleeping Beauty carved into the rock naturally, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Gina. So when we think about turquoise matrix, there are three colors of matrix that are generally seen. There's the black, which contains iron pyrite, but technically it is iron sulfide. There is a brown matrix that contains iron oxides, and there's 16 different types of iron oxides, so it can contain 1 to 16. And then we've got a yellow matrix as well that contains rhyolite. When you look at some of the most well-known turquoise with a matrix, we're going to look at 4 of them. We've got the number 8 mine in Nevada and the Morenci that are up on screen right now. You can see some of the details. And in terms of quality, from least valuable to most valuable, it goes from left to right. So quality is considered to increase when you've got a beautifully saturated color in the stone and the matrix is fairly even or has a good pattern in it. So if you take a look at these two, it can be very subjective. And that's where, as a jewelry connoisseur, collector, buyer, or seller, it's always most important to choose what you love the most. With most things, symmetry is usually said to equal beauty. So that's what we're seeing up on screen right now in terms of the classifications for value. And then, of course, we've got some examples from the Royston mine and the Manasseh mine as well. And in these cases, what you want to see is the quality of the color, but you also want to see some of that special variation in it as well. So it's absolutely fascinating. It is a very, very complex topic. Ah, yes, Doug, you do know this very well. So I do want to share a resource with you that I found online, and it is a website dedicated to turquoise identification. So I'm going to share another screen real quick before we jump back into the presentation, and I promise that I will link to this as well. And this is just to give you an idea of all of the varieties. So typesofturquoise.com, turquoise identification, I am going to scroll, hopefully not too fast, just to give you an idea of all of the breadth. And what I love about this website is that they give you examples of the stones as well as pieces in jewelry, and they talk about what it is about that specific mine and the stones that are found in that mine that make it special. And I'm just going to keep scrolling because there are so many varieties. It is a very in-depth topic, and we are truly only scratching the surface today. This is the first page. There are great resources out there, and we will continue to link and share everything that we can. So I want to make sure that I share all of that with you. Now, there are some things to know about the treatments that are used for turquoise. Because it is a softer stone and porous, and because it can be very uneven, there are different things that are done to it. And the most common treatments are dye, stabilization, and reconstitution. Now, dye is used in a couple of different ways. So dye can be done, I'm just going to remove this for a second. Dye can be done to enhance the actual base color of the turquoise. So that could be the blue or the green, or it could be dyed to enhance the matrix of the turquoise as well. And so if you are looking at a piece and trying to determine if it's been dyed, it's really important to look in close and look both at the matrix of the turquoise as well as that base color, and check to see if you're able to notice within any of the cracks or natural divots if there appears to be any like color adherence that doesn't belong there. That's one of the tips that you're able to use. Now, when we talk about reconstituted turquoise, we are talking about the reconstitution in a few different ways. In some cases, it's actually powdered turquoise that has resin applied to it, which then forms essentially a whole new stone. And it is meant to be fairly stable. It is if you don't soak it, can be used for jewelry, but it is not as valuable as fully natural turquoise. That piece that you see in the middle, this is one that is done with different pieces of turquoise. And sometimes you even see this when you have inlaid turquoise, where several different pieces are put together. And then on the very end, we've got a reconstituted piece that is a larger set that are put together and then adhered together with that resin crystal turquoise powder. So it's a lot to know. And it's worth noting that when you are looking for turquoise, there are some tests that you can do to make sure that you know what you are getting. And that includes some of the most common tests to check for whether or not it's been treated. Now, some treatments that are also done to stabilize turquoise include adding a little bit of oil or wax, or using polymers, which essentially are plastics, to fill them into. And that helps give them a beautiful, a smooth, shiny look. But that does mean that if you used a heated pin test, you may be able to determine if something is fully natural turquoise or not. You can also do a scratch test. If you scratch it with your nail, you shouldn't see anything happen. It shouldn't show any white. And if you scratch it on a piece of sort of raw ceramic, that also should not yield any white either. So those are all little tests that you can do. Yes, Linda, I see your comment. There is a white buffalo turquoise. There is a sacred white buffalo turquoise. It is albino turquoise and exceedingly rare. There is a white turquoise, though, that is a pretender that is made of magnesite. And we are absolutely going to talk all about this. Gina is 100% correct. She says that most modern turquoise is stabilized. And that's right. Since the 1970s, especially, it has been very, very, very common to stabilize turquoise. And that's in part why we see so much turquoise from the 70s and onwards that stays that beautiful blue color, if it is a blue color. Whereas some of the pieces that we're going to look at from the Victorian period actually take on more of a greenish color as they age because they're absorbing oils and other things around because they weren't treated. I love that we have such a smart audience here. Gina has also pointed out that you can use acetone to test for dye. So you can grab yourself a Q-tip with some common nail polish remover, and you can absolutely do a little spot test. Two things to keep in mind if you test your stone that way. One, you may, if it is dyed, remove a little bit of the color, which could make it a little bit less vibrant in that spot if you use a lot. So choose a subtle space. And always don't oversaturate if you're going to be doing that. All right, Deborah says most beads are dyed and there's fakes on Fire Mountain. We got to be careful when we are looking for pieces. Now, antique and vintage turquoise jewelry is especially beautiful and one of my passions. So I'm going to transition into sharing some jewelry. I promise you, we are going to absolutely talk about the pretenders and what to look for and tips to care for turquoise too very shortly. First, let's start with some wonderful medieval turquoise rings. These are from the 12th to the 15th century. You can see in the bottom example, there's actually a crack right through the center, and yet it is still stable enough to wear. I've actually even seen some modern pieces, and my sister has one that has a crack but was restabilized and can be worn. So just because something happens to a piece does not mean that it cannot be salvaged and used. Here we have a Georgian turquoise pansy ring, and to the folks, turquoise was the color of love, of happiness, of lightness, and also a similar color to a pansy. And a pansy, in the language of flowers, was pensez à moi, think of me. It is a love message. So in amatory jewelry, you do see a fair bit of turquoise, and it became even more popular in Victoria's reign. First, though, we have this Georgian snake buckle. And as you can see, some of the turquoises are beginning to change just a little bit in color. We also have a beautiful Georgian ring with turquoise and a beautiful old mine-cut diamond in it, circa 1820. And this is a Victorian semi-eternity ring in my collection. It is very, very green. Now they say that with a deep, proper cleaning, it would be possible to restore this to be a little bit more blue, but I personally love the color, so I am not going to touch it. In the Victorian period, there was a lot of popularity around wonderful turquoise, and some of it had to do with Victoria herself. She really set the tone for style. And what we're going to look at next is a very special piece. Now, bridesmaids' gifts in the UK were given by the gentleman, the groom that was going to be married. It was his job to find gifts for the bridesmaids. And so, when Victoria and Albert were married, it was his job to figure out what to give her bridesmaids. And he commissioned something very special. A nod to his ancestry, he chose an eagle, and it is an eagle of wonderful turquoise, pearls within the talons that mean true love. We have rubies in the eye for passion, and then diamonds in the beak for eternity. And these were some wonderful gifts that still exist, and they're in the VA museum. Well, there's one in the VA museum now. And here's a little sketch of the bridesmaids' dresses that were planned, and the wonderful gift that was meant to last a lifetime and really showcase the love of Victoria and Albert and invite them to celebrate in that wonderful time. After that gift, there was really a push. A lot of people had different bird brooches made for themselves and also for bridesmaids for important occasions. This is another one that is just a little bit later, about 20 years later, but it's a similar motif where we've got a dove that has a heart in its beak and it has a little garnet eye as well. As we move a little bit later into the century, we continue to see a lot of turquoise, almost in this like pave motif, this time set in a gold bracelet. This is a little Victorian watch key pendant, and it is embedded with turquoise on both sides. And as you can see, this was not stabilized turquoise. So especially on the piece on the right, there's a little bit of damage to some of those stones where they're kind of cracked. Part of it is that the matrix is coming through and it's been whacked in its many, many years, almost 150 years, but it is still extremely wearable today. And then, of course, you've seen little flashes of these. We've got an Imperial Russian turquoise ring that uses Persian turquoise. This one's circa 1890. And this wonderful turquoise brooch from the Art Nouveau period. Now, I want to share a video of this one with you so that you can really see the depth of what antique turquoise can look like. And so I'm going to share right now, a video, I'll play it a couple of times, you can see that with the oils and age, the turquoise is actually turned just a little bit. Oops, let's play it again. So you can see that the color is not just that blue, it's sort of blue with a mottled green too, and you can see a little bit of that matrix line that cuts through from the bottom. It is beautiful, and I, again, will not be cleaning this one. So wanted to share that. And that is one of the ways that you can also identify antique turquoise in antique pieces, is to look for some of those natural wear and the variation that you expect to see. Now, through the Victorian period, small pieces of turquoise were also used to stud celestial brooches as well as honeymoon brooches. Here we have an example of a turquoise brooch that has a star, and you can again see that there's variation to the colors of turquoise. And I'm bringing this to your attention because when we do our little quiz later, it might be handy to look for variations. Here is another example of an imperial Russian ring from around 1910 with some really beautiful turquoise in it. It is that fabulous kind of sky robin's egg blue. And here's another with some smaller pieces. To Russians, the turquoise means love, so it was very popular in jewelry. And finally, we have another piece, and this is an American early Art Nouveau Deco turquoise pendant from around 1915, and it's on the lighter side. It's kind of like a lighter green color. And again, another beauty. So when we think about our turquoise, we've talked about it being a little bit soft. I definitely want to share some tips with you. Number one, don't just put it on and do your housework and do your cooking. I would strongly recommend that it be the first thing that you take off and the last thing you put on and the first thing you take off. Treat it like your pearls. I think I need to reverse that. The last thing you put on and the first thing you take off. Here we go. Put it on last, take it off first. Use a dry or damp cloth to wipe it down. So again, you don't really want to soak a piece of turquoise. You definitely do not want to put it in an ultrasonic, and you also don't want to use a steamer. So think of it very kindly. I like to use just a little bit of like a soft cloth with a little bit of water and give it a quick wipe, and that should take care of everything. I also like to store it separately to avoid scratching because it is on the softer side. So if you're storing it in your jewelry box and you also have diamonds with a Mohs hardness of 9 or sapphires that are right up there, they can scratch. So you want to be a little bit careful and sensitive to how you store them, especially if you happen to be traveling with some of them. Don't just throw it into a bag with your other jewelry. Be sensitive to that. Now, in terms of the don'ts, don't wear when cooking, cleaning, and applying makeup or fragrances. Don't soak the stones, and don't expose to temperature changes. I'm going to tell you about a mistake I made once, and I did this with some amylite, not turquoise, but it's a good lesson. I used to take it off and put it in the windowsill. Now, where I live, we have pretty big temperature fluctuations. And when the sun is beaming in, it can get very hot. And then when the sun goes away, nighttime falls, it can get very, very cold. These types of temperature changes are not great for stones like opals, not great for things like your turquoise or amylite. So be careful. If you've ever stored like a baby tooth in the window too, the same thing can happen if you leave it there for a long time. So don't do that. Hello, Polly. It is great to see you. Hello, Jeanette. Now, I promised that we would talk about some of the pretenders. So let's jump into that now. We've got African turquoise, yellow turquoise, white turquoise, howlite, and mountain jade. And the reason why we want to talk about these is because they are actually not turquoise at all. That website really wants to be shared. When we talk about African, what we are actually talking about is jasper. And sometimes the jasper is mined in mines that have turquoise, but it is still not turquoise. When we talk about yellow turquoise, that is also jasper. Sometimes it's dyed serpentine. It can be very beautiful in your jewelry, but it is not turquoise. White turquoise, unless it is truly the sacred white buffalo turquoise that is extremely rare, is generally magnesite. Sometimes it's also undyed howlite, and howlite, when dyed, takes on sort of this robin's egg blue. One of the tips that you can look for is whether it has almost like a cauliflower nodule look to it, and if the matrix is kind of stuck in within that. Hello, Antique Agenda. It is great to see you. So these are all really good tips. Now, mountain jade as the last one, this is actually dolomite marble that is found in Asia and often dyed, and it can take on this very translucent, beautiful color too. So there are plenty of pretenders out there. It is hard to know what you're buying if you're not buying from a reputable source. So make sure that you understand who you're buying from and what names they're calling their turquoise. And again, that website that I'm going to share, Turquoise Identification, will help you with that too. Now, in addition to these pretenders, there's two more that I want to share. One is Egyptian faience, which is not a stone at all. It's essentially a kind of pottery, and it can take on this beautiful turquoise hue, and sometimes it is mistaken for turquoise, but it is not, although it is beautiful and highly collectible in its own right as well. And finally, we have glass turquoise pretenders. And glass turquoise is also, in my opinion, very, very beautiful. And I want to bring your attention to two specific different types. Hubble, which I typoed, there should be two L's, Hubble glass, and then art glass. Now, Hubble glass, there is a little bit of, I want to say almost a controversy around it, because people once upon a time would say that there was a certain homesteader that moved to a trading post in Arizona in 1878 that had Hubble glass developed for him, and his name was John or Don Lorenzo Hubble. Now, it actually turns out that it's not that he had it created, it's that he offered it in his trading post, and he would even trade the glass with the folks that lived there. So he supported the Navajos as well as the settlers by bringing in all sorts of products to support them. And jewelry was very, very popular. And so sometimes these pieces would get incorporated into jewelry, and they are really, really scarce now. So when we look at this, I'm going to bring the slide back up. Hubble glass looks very much like natural turquoise. A lot of effort went into it in order to create it. And later, so Hubble glass was generally actually Czech glass. Later, additional art glass was made to really emulate all sorts of wonderful stones. And I want to show you some details, but first, let's look at some photos of the Hubble family. They moved to Gavado, Arizona. They had 160 acres, which they settled, and they operated a trading post there for 89 years. And the idea of the trading post was to make it look like a little pueblo. They had, again, 160 acres, and until 1967, they operated it when it was sold to the national parks, and it is now a museum today. So just wanted to share some photos to kind of bring that part of history to life. I always love to see details, but we should look at some turquoise glass jewelry. So here is an example of turquoise glass by an artisan in an Edwardian filigree piece. And if you look in really close, you can almost see those little veins that are meant to look like pyrite that actually look like they're probably made of aventurine or goldstone glass. So really beautiful. And the whole purpose was at the turn of the century, they were trying so hard to emulate natural stones with the glass they were making. They did the same with carnelian, jade, amethyst, but turquoise looks really special. This is an Art Deco piece, and from around 1930, and it almost has more of that brown matrix to it. This one, to me, there is no question whatsoever that this is glass. But as you can see, it is part of the Art Deco Victorian revival, where they really are trying to emulate those pave set turquoise hearts. And instead, they've just molded the entire thing. So another amazing piece of art glass. You can tell glass sometimes by looking for any smooth sort of swirls in it. And this is a really good example of that type of a swirl in this Art Deco glass ring. Hello, Rune. Great to see you. Hello, Kelly. This is another example where they've gone to great lengths to try and make it appear as though there's matrix and almost like a pyrite matrix, but it is indeed glass. And finally, we have a semi-translucent Art Deco glass brooch from 1930 that is meant to emulate that Persian or Sleeping Beauty turquoise as well. So as you can see, there are some really phenomenal pieces of glass that are made to emulate turquoise. So whether you like the natural stone or whether you like glass or the color, there is probably something that will appeal to you. Now we're going to play a little game, and I like to call this Spot the Stone. So I will share some brooches with you, and only one of them has stones in it. Is it the one I'm wearing or is it one of the others? Well, let's look at them in detail. I'm going to talk you through them as well. I'll share details on what materials went into making them, and we'll try to get in close to take a look at some of the photos. And then I'd love for you to give me your best guess. So let's play Spot the Stone. We have 4 wonderful brooches. They're all from around the same time frame, so they're Victorian brooches. We've got a wreath, we've got a bar dangle, we have a lover's knot, and we have a heart with ivy. So let's dive right in. This first one, Victorian wreath brooch, and we will, I promise, get in a little bit closer. The second, a branch and ball brooch. The third, our lover's knot. Such a popular motif and so romantic. These were really commonly given as bridesmaids' gifts. And then we have a Victorian heart and ivy brooch as well. Okay, so let's go in even deeper. This is a gold-filled wreath brooch. And if you look really, really close, you will notice that some of these stones are broken. Here's the back, just for fun, but more importantly, let's get in close. You may notice that these are quite uniform in color. There are some chips to them. And now we'll go to number B. B is a Victorian silver branch and ball brooch. This one is actually Russian. And we will take a look at the back and the pin stem for fun. But now we're going to get in close. You can see a little bit of pitting. When you look at pieces and you're trying to see if it's glass, it's always good to ask yourself, do you see any sort of pitting or strange chipping that allows you to see inside so that it looks like it could be glass? Here is C. C is a 9-karat gold lover's knot, and we'll get in a little bit closer. There's the back, and you can see the 9-karat stamp on this, and we will look closely. Now in the top stone, I see a tiny little mark that appears to be a bit of matrix. The bottom smaller one looks nice and solid. And finally, we have D, the Victorian sterling heart and ivy brooch. So let's get in a little bit closer here. We can see the sterling mark. We can see the replaced catch on it as well. And look at these beautiful, extremely uniform turquoise cabochons. It is a very difficult test. All right. So, oops, I've revealed the answer. For all of you that have said C, you are absolutely correct. It is not easy to do this without actually having the pieces in your hand. And the reason why I want to share this as a lesson is that often you see things that may be slightly misrepresented. It is important to zoom in, to look really close, try to find signs. And if you're not sure, it's always okay to ask the seller, if you're shopping online, how they have recognized the material. So was it actually tested? So congratulations to everybody that said C. You are absolutely right, and you have done an amazing job. Congratulations. I am going to remind you now to type #win, all caps. I'm going to throw up a banner real quick because very, very soon we are going to give away one of these fantastic mugs shipped to the winner completely free. But first, I am going to activate the Extra Scoop Club membership giveaway. So we will be giving away 5 memberships right now. You don't have to do anything to enter that one. I just have to go and click some buttons on YouTube. So please bear with me. I am going to do that right now. There we go. And we should be all set. Good luck, everybody. Now, I do have some important information to share with you all. Type #win before we do our mug draw. What I want to share with you is very specific to antique collectors who love old pieces, antique pieces, and don't want to mistakenly buy a piece that is a reproduction. So this is sort of a public service announcement of sorts. I call it Buyer Beware Antique Reproductions. Now, you may remember this brooch. We talked about it from the royal wedding. It was the gift that Albert had commissioned for Victoria's bridesmaids. And it's been brought to my attention that this very brooch, identical, is available on eBay. You can see it here. And there's a few things that should raise our hackles with this listing. One is when you see pieces that essentially are historic pieces that are, just a picture that is almost stolen from the VA Museum and posted for sale, and the piece is being manufactured in India, and there's multiple pieces available, that is definitely some of the telltale signs that you need to be aware of. Now, this seller also sells many other Victorian and Georgian pieces, including these very sought after and rare snake pieces. They also have this necklace, and what's interesting is that we do see that sometimes people will buy these knowing exactly what they are, saying, hey, it's just like an original, thank you. And yet you can personalize it. It could have been personalized. So these are actually folks that are trying to create reproductions, and sometimes they get purchased on the secondary market and then resold as though they're actual antiques. And so what I want to share with you is some tips to check out the listings. And you may be aware of using Google Lens, but you may not. So we're going to walk through it. Step 1, screenshot the listing. This is always worth doing if you're buying a very, very old piece and if you're not sure if it's something that there should be multiple copies of. Once you've taken a screenshot, you can use Google Lens to upload the image, and it's going to search the internet for identical pictures. Here we have it. So this is me doing it on my phone. I uploaded the picture, and then I already got some results, and it included a result for $39. There were some results on Etsy, and there were some results on Pinterest as well. Here we have it. Looks suspiciously familiar, doesn't it? So we are going to then want to click in so that you can actually see like what is going on here. And what we find in this case is that we actually have almost the identical listing. They're using the same photos, and they've simply overlaid the photo onto a hand as well. And really, it's the same offer. From the photos, we can see that it's actually the same company. They've stamped it in the same way, but they go by multiple names. So they're trying to essentially build a business by making reproductions. And that's fine and dandy if that is what you would like to buy. If you want to buy a reproduction simply for your collection and you're okay with it. But if you think that you're buying a true antique, it's really important to read between the lines. And what's really dangerous about these reproductions is that sometimes they end up in the secondary market because someone doesn't know that there's been so many reproductions made, and they get passed off as being the genuine thing. So always be careful, ask questions. This is why I actually love to see signs of wear in my antique pieces as well, because I don't want a reproduction. All right, I see a couple questions and comments, so I'm going to take a look at that, and then we're going to give away the mug. Doug, it is my absolute pleasure. Thank you for being here. All right. Deborah, you're asking about the memberships. So is there a reason to have both? Well, the extra scoop one scoop, whether you do it on YouTube or on Patreon, is the exact same thing. So you'll have access to all of the same data. On Patreon, with the 2 scoop and 3 scoop, that's where you get a little bit more access and hands-on support with research. So I would say that if you simply want to attend the extra events and you want to be part of the community, then the 1 scoop, either on YouTube or on Patreon, is absolutely fine. No real need to have both. One and the same, they are interchangeable. I hope that helps. All right, I am now going to do the draw for the mug. So let's give everybody maybe 20 more seconds to get entered on this one. And I'm going to check right now to see how many entrants we have. We have 45. That's fantastic. I will share my screen and make sure that it comes up. And we are going to do a countdown. So I am going to count down from 10, and then we will draw. You've got 10 more seconds to enter hashtag win, WIN. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and good luck, everybody. Let's hit draw and see who is taking home the mug today. And it is Prudence Treasure Chest. Congratulations, Bruce. I believe I have your address. I'll double check and I will message you if I do not. A lovely mug will be coming home to you. And I do have one special request for everyone before we end today. So today we covered turquoise and we covered some Victorian jewelry, some Georgian jewelry, antique jewelry. But what we did not dive into in any kind of depth is Native American jewelry. And this is not my area of expertise, and I am hoping to invite a guest onto the channel to talk all about it. Turquoise, the designs, pieces, the history. So I invite you to send me any guest suggestions on this topic or any other to sundaebaubles@gmail.com. And I will gladly bring on a guest. I've got a couple of folks in mind, but if you know someone who would be interested, this would be a great chance for them to get a little bit of visibility. So please do share this, and then we will get some well-versed, knowledgeable guests onto the channel. All right. Yes, I was thinking Jennifer Yellowhorse. If you have her contact details, Gina, and can connect me, that would be amazing. I've seen her in a few chats, but I don't have her details. So this wraps us up for today's Sundae brunch and turquoise. Thank you so much for being here. I want to tell you about the next Sundae brunch that I'm going to be doing. Due to popular request, I have been asked to talk about the difference between costume and fine jewelry. So that is going to be a deep dive with examples of both, how the terminology is used, whether it should be interchangeable. It should be a lot of fun. And then coming up after that, we've got Georgian and Imperial Russian. So it's going to be a very exciting 2 months. And don't forget, April is around the corner. That is my birthday month. And that means that we are going to be doing the 3rd annual Sundae Baubles birthday extravaganza giveaway. There will be more announcements to come. I've been working on what it is going to look like this year to make sure that we can engage with as many people as possible, both during the live and leading up to it, so everyone can get involved. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me at sundaebaubles@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everybody. I will see you very soon. And remember, we do have that extra scoop Zoom coming up next weekend. If you need details, you can also email me about it. Yes, Aries unite. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. April, I see your question. I won't close before I say it. Can you buy a mug? I haven't offered them for sale yet, but I may do a special edition that I make available. If that is something that everybody's interested or anybody's interested in, I can absolutely do that. Okay, I will do it. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a wonderful week ahead. Bye bye.